2011. This is Mercedes Diesel Guy, your favorite idiot with a wrench. Today I'm actually going to start on the minor body work on the van. As you can see, just over the years of driving around New England here, you can see I've got a couple of surface rust spots here, right along the bottom. Nothing really big. I mean, it really is just surface rust, but I have to grind that down and coat it and put some paint on it. And you can't see it, but right there inside the door, notice just a couple of really minor spots there in the dog legs, so I gotta take care of that too. The biggest areas of concern are surface rust right along the rear seams here. Now you can see I already treated that I want to say 8 years ago, right when I bought the van, and it held up pretty well over time, but certainly wasn't perfect and needs attention again. So there's that. And then there's this area right here. Now also similar surface rust along the seam that I have to take care of right there, but this is the one of the biggest areas of concern. This was actually a pretty sizable dent when I bought the van, and I bought it when I was 24. Was I 24? Yeah, I was 24. And I basically just filled it up with 1 inch of Bondo and then spray painted it. You can see the paint has lost 100% of its luster, but this actually was supposedly originally matched to the it was a spray can I had matched to the van's color code, and to be honest, the color was never even close. It really was roughly as far off as you see it right now the whole time, and the clear coat has completely failed, and you can see the Bondo's kind of cracking here, and you can see some looks kind of rusty, so obviously the metal is rusting a little bit underneath that. So I'm going to grind out all that Bondo, grind out the rust. Now that I have a stud welder dent puller, which I'll show you in action, as well as some hammers and dollies, I can actually reshape the metal quite a bit and then use a lot less Bondo when I refix that. There's also a couple of spots up front I'm going to take care of. One kind of along the seam here, very small bubble, but on the other side of the van, just kind of harder for me to get around there and show you, so I figured I'd just point it out. It's right about there. And then a couple of spots, most of what you're seeing here really is just dirt, but a couple of spots here kind of along the bumper that I have to take care of. So this stuff has been waiting for me for quite a while. I really can't wait any longer, so I'm actually going to have to figure the best thing for me to do really is to turn the van around. And since I haven't test driven the oil leak repairs that I did a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, now it's going to be a good time to do that. I'm just going to take a quick spin around the neighborhood and then back it into the driveway so I can get started here. Both bumpers are going to have to come off. I'll show you a little bit about how to do that. The brush guard here also is going to have to come off, but that's easy. That bolts to the frame. And basically I'm doing this so as to prevent the rust from getting a lot worse in the future. I've always been of the mind that once rust sets in, it's really hard to stop permanently. So unless you have a really valuable car and can afford to take it to a professional, there's a lot of things you can and probably should do on your own, because I think if you kind of take it to a half-ass body man, you're going to spend a lot more money for the same quality work you can do at home. I mean, it's true, my the touch-up painting I do when I finish this up won't look as good as professional work, not even close, but once again, for what I'm going to save money-wise, well worth it to do it myself. So I'm going to take the van out quickly and test drive the repairs. Then I'm going to come back here and get to work pulling the bumpers, and then dealing with surface rust and dents. So that's where I am, and I would like to remind you to check out my new blog, mercedesdieselguy.blogspot.com. Please ignore the link in my previous two videos. I actually completely typed the link wrong and it doesn't work. So mercedesdieselguy.blogspot.com, and I'm going to obviously put a correct link in this video. So that's where we are for now, and obviously I'll take a little more video shortly. Quick update. Test drive was more or less successful. Just kind of took it around the neighborhood. You can hear it's a hot day, so the radiator fan's already on, but you can see the coolant gauge there is not giving me any trouble at all, so there's nothing to worry about. Getting a little bit of smoking off the exhaust, which I'm guessing is the probably a combination of anti-seize that got on different stuff, and possibly the JB weld. So gonna have to keep an eye on that, but I don't think anything is in danger of going up in flames. Here it almost sounds like it's backfiring a bit. I'm really not sure what's going on with that, so I was going to kind of have to keep my eye on it, but it drove okay. So, once again, it's a Vanagon. They're quirky. Not too worried about it. See a little bit of smoke there coming off, but it doesn't seem to be dripping or leaking anything, so that's definitely a win. So, the only reason it's actually still running is that when I went to start it before, it wouldn't start. I guess because of all the time I was out here working on it and running the CD player, I pretty much drained the battery, so it was just shy of having enough to start. So I jump-started it and drove around the neighborhood, and I'm just letting it run a while to build up the charge. So gonna keep an eye on everything, let it run a while, and then shut it down. All right, work continued. I have the brush guard off the van, and just let me show you that for a moment and how it attaches. This is actually a I don't know if it was officially Volkswagen issue, but this was an accessory for the Vanagon in South Africa, and I had this. I didn't actually have it shipped in. I bought it from an importer. Bought it brand new, probably 7 years ago. Went on about a year after I bought the van, and you can see this here is the passenger side, and you can see the plates there, and same here on the driver's side. It basically just clamps to the. It's not really a frame because it's a unibody vehicle, but there's, for lack of a better term, frame rails there. And this just kind of clamps onto the front. And I got the brush guard because when I bought the van, I was actually driving kind of out in the middle of nowhere, and I was afraid of hitting a deer. So I figured this would provide some front-end protection. Thankfully, I haven't hit anything yet, and hopefully never will. Plus, it looks pretty cool on there. Next up, I'm going to get the front bumper off. Now, this is actually pretty easy. There's the first thing that has to happen is these two rubber strips on either side here have to come off, and you really just pry them off. You can tape up the end of a screwdriver with electrical tape so you don't scratch anything, but I'm actually going to be using these this auto trim and molding set here, which work pretty well. They're plastic, they don't scratch anything. So first thing I'm going to do is get those strips off, and really just kind of have to get behind here and just pry the clips out. And this tool really does make this quite a bit easier. Okay, that particular clip is stuck. So you have 3 out of 4 now, and work on the last one in a moment, and then I'll do this other one here while I'm not filming, but you can see that's pretty easy. And then once that's done, you can see a bolt here, and there's going to be a bolt on the other side, and we'll just see if there's any bolts underneath the bumper. I don't actually see any, so I believe those are the 2 bolts actually holding it onto the car. There is actually, I have to pry out this cap here, I'll show you that, and there's a screw behind it also. But for the most part, it looks like the bumper just mounts to the body with 2 bolts. So let me get this going, and then I'll show you more in a few minutes. Okay, that really only took about a minute, and I really am only seeing this bolt here and the matching one on the other side. So the only other thing to do, forget the shaky camera work here. Now, before I remove that, just pry this cap out right here. See, I'm going in there with the screwdriver because the plastic prying tools I had just are too big for this. And obviously I'm trying not to damage this too much. Okay. And you can see there's a Phillips head screw in there, so I'll take that out. I have those plastic end cap Phillips head screws out now, so the last remaining thing are these 2 bolts right here which hold the bumper to the body. And as you can see, they are 13mm. So I'm going to remove those and take the bumper off. I'll just show you then what it looks like without the bumper. Okay, it looks like I'm on a roll, and I was correct. Those are the only 2 bolts holding the front bumper to the body. And it's really hard to tell, but these original factory bumpers, they're really thin and flimsy, and they offer basically no protection. I mean, they bolt right up to this extended portion of the body right here, which really is the bumper. And this is actually why a lot of people will install are installing heavier duty bumpers as these vans age. And there are a couple of aftermarket options, stuff I would love to have if I had the budget for it, which I don't. So anyhow, what I'm going to do right now is, just so I don't lose them, this is a good idea whenever you do this sort of thing. Just going to, hand thread these bolts right back into the body here, because I don't really need to be working up here. I just need to be able to get a wire wheel in here. It looks like, oh, I actually have holes in the metal, so I'm gonna have to clean that up and see what I'm gonna do about it. They want this clean up, and I coat it as best I can, and then fiberglass over it. Might rivet a patch onto it. Not sure yet. So, but this is my own fault. I kind of knew about these bubbles right here, even back to when I bought the van. It's kind of all along here. And I was just hoping it really wouldn't get worse. I mean, I knew they would, but for whatever reason, I was kind of thought, 8 years ago, I thought taking the front bumper off would be a lot more difficult than it actually turned out to be. I mean, even then, I understood how to do it, like I just showed you. But I figured that maybe the impact strips on the front would be harder to pry out than they actually were. That sort of thing. So I just kind of left the little rust bubbles here and sort of kept an eye on them over the years, which obviously was not a great idea, but what can I say? I was a kid. I've learned from mistakes. So this here is one of the screws that held on the plastic strip. So I'm gonna also just quickly thread that back in there a little bit. I'm going to end up reusing this, but I will clean it up really well. And surprised this particular bolt isn't hand threading in more than it is right now. I wonder where the screw went from the other side. Maybe it's still in the bumper piece. So, anyhow, I'm gonna not go over there quite yet. Just gonna tell you what I'm gonna do. Next, just to prevent them from any kind of overspray, I'm gonna take off my nice smoked turn signal lenses. These were fairly cheap when I bought them years ago. I think they're more expensive now, but you can still get them. I thought with the silver van they worked really well. I still have the original amber lenses, but I really do prefer these, and I have amber bulbs in there. So I'm going to take those out, and I'm going to take the lower grill out. And this is also really easy. There's just a couple of screws. You see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's 5 screws, one on each of the corners and one top middle. So this will come right out, and turn signal lenses will come right out, and then I'm actually going to get to taking the rear bumper off. It's basically the same exact process, except you're going to notice here this this funny impact strip on the back of my bumper, which you don't have. The story behind that is when I bought the van, I told you about this dent before, but the bumper was also mangled, completely mangled from the same hit. So I bought a new bumper. This is aftermarket, but supposedly basically like a factory equivalent. And it came in black paint, as you see here, but didn't have holes drilled for the impact strip. Plus, the impact strip in my old bumper was kind of bent up a bit, so the bumper itself cost about $100 at the time, and I didn't feel like paying $80 just for a strip of rubber to go across it. And seeing as how I had money in those days, or at least, you know, that kind of money, I kind of regret not getting an original impact strip and just drilling this bumper for it. But what I did was I went to a junkyard, and I pulled the, you see the license plate cut out down there. This is the front impact strip off a 123 series Mercedes diesel, and it's just a nice, really heavy piece of rubber, so I cut the ends off it, where it originally curved around the Mercedes bumper, and had more than enough length here. Then I drilled it, and drilled some holes, and just used these big carriage bolts here, which stayed shiny for a long time. They're getting a bit rusty now, so I'm going to take this bumper off. I'm actually going to take the impact strip off, clean up those bolts. I'm probably going to use some Plastidip on the ends of those bolts. Probably just go black on those, and then remount the whole thing. Also, this bumper is starting to get a little rusty on the bottom. You can't see it yet, so I'm going to clean that up. The front factory bumper is okay, but the as you can see also here, there's some rust starting all over on the brush guard, so I may actually also grind this down and repaint it. But anyhow, to get the rear bumper off, it's basically the same process, just a little different. Obviously, you have the end caps on either side, and this end cap, actually, I have something completely different than the factory screw. I think I have a little a nut and a long bolt, and I also drilled another hole there in the side to mount that, because of the accident, the bumper didn't correctly line up to the original hole there. So, but it worked well. Basically the same process. In this case, I don't actually have to take the impact strip off, because I have some holes there already to access the bolts. See if I can even show you in there. Yeah, you can kind of see the bolt, and one on each side. But there's also, if you look down here, there's also a bolt underneath. So there's 4 bolts holding on the rear bumper, otherwise identical to the front. So I'm gonna take the stuff off the front, take the rear bumper off, take at least this tail light out, and once that's all ready, I'm going to get to cleaning up some metal, and I'll show you the tools I'm going to use for that. Okay, I'm just going to give you the quick rundown before I take my lunch break. Brush guard off, bumpers off, grill off, front side markers off. And you can see all the little rust spots I'm going to have to take care of up here. Nothing too serious except for this one right here, which does seem to go through, which I'll most likely clean up, coat in fiberglass. Do have some surface rust spots around here where the grill does mount, so I'll probably do a little bit of sanding and painting there. The grill will cover that up completely, but that's just for future protection. Rear bumper's off now, tail lights off. Sorry, it was zoomed in there. Rear bumper is off. Tail light is off. I'm actually going to start again and cut that part out. 3, 2, 1. I actually also have the rear bumper off and the tail light is out. And in order to deal with this dent here, I took off the side panel inside, and then I realized there was this insulation here which I figured was covering a hole so I can access that part of the body. Well, I took my heat gun and peeled away this padding here, and there's no access hole. So once I'm done with my lunch break, I'm actually going to glue that back and probably put the panel right back in. It doesn't matter too much because once I grind out the Bondo and get it down to bare metal, I have this handy new tool right here. It's my stud welder dent repair kit, and that was a Christmas gift from my wife. I did ask for it, and just for doing this sort of thing here. So I'll it's a pretty deep dent. I'll pop it out as best I can before I re-Bondo it. And then I have little surface rust spots all over the body here. And actually, this is the one I was telling you about earlier, right here by the door. And as you can see, it doesn't look too bad. However, if you've never done this sort of work before, you will soon learn that if you see a rust bubble that this big, it actually goes quite a bit bigger underneath the paint. You're going to have to trust me on that. And whenever you take off paint to repair something like that, you really have to go just a hair further than the rust really was. Because otherwise, if you leave rust under there, it just comes back all that much quicker. And I want to show you this here. This is actually really, really cool. I've got 2 cans of this. I bought this at a car show a few years back. This is new old stock stuff. This is Volkswagen spray touch-up paint. Flash silver metallic. So, I mean, this really should be... it's kind of dirty there. This really should be a correct match. If not correct, very close. Because I think there was actually also another flash silver metallic they used on the Scirocco and perhaps other models. So I think they had the same name on 2 slightly different shades of silver. But anyhow, that's what I'm going to try on the repair. And that's assuming these spray cans actually work. They're probably 20 to 25 years old, and if they don't, I'm just going to get some generic silver touch-up, because as I said, I did try to get spray paint actually matched to my color code before, and it was always way off. I mean, the effect is a little more prominent now that the clear coat has died, but even then, when this was brand new, it was way off from the original factory color. So I'm going to take my lunch break, then I'm going to get out here with my grinder and start taking this stuff down to metal. And then once I have those spots done, I will take my Eastwood rust encapsulator, go over the rust, and start on this dent here. That's all for now. I am done with my lunch break and had to run to the auto parts store for just a couple of supplies, and then I get out here and now I'm working with my angle grinder with wire brush attachment, and I was literally working on this for less than 30 seconds. So you can see here's how some of the surface rust has spread underneath the paint again, and over the past 8 years you can actually see there's some perforation here. So first task, of course, is to clean this up, and then for those pinholes, probably fiberglass will be my best way to go. And then I have to see how I can coat this from the back, if at all. So that's where I am for now. Okay, I have actually ground all the old Bondo out of the dent, and I've exposed the surface rust in the seam there. Actually, the wasn't quite as deep as I remembered, but it's still pretty bad. This is basically the dent that came with the van, and I haven't seen this dent now in years. I'm seeing some perforation here. Now, when I originally bought this, looks like there had been a previous repair attempt that had cracked, so it's possible that some of these holes are, once again, from a previous attempt. I don't know if any of this is rust through or not. Some of these are actually drill holes, a couple of which might have been caused by me during an earlier misguided attempt at repair. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to break out my stud welder here for the first time. Weld some studs onto there and pop this dent out as best I can. That way, when I do smooth it back over again, I'll be working with less Bondo, and the less the better. I've been working on this dent now for a while. Been using the stud welder dent puller, which basically welds a stud onto the bodywork there. And then, if I can just find it, you then use the slider hammer here to pull on the rivet and pop out the dent. And the contour here has actually gotten a lot closer to original, much more so than it's been since I've owned the van. So I'm gonna work that a bit more. I also hammered it back a bit from this side because ever since I bought the van, actually, this side panel has been pretty much touching the door, and doing this has actually greatly improved the body gap here. And did a little investigating, and I realized that if I just unscrewed the vent piece, which normally goes here, I can see down there, which means once I have this all sealed off, all I have to do is spray something down there, like primer and rust proofer, and that should take care of it. That should prevent it from rusting again from the other side, because before I Bondo over this, I'm also going to just cover those holes with a layer of fiberglass. So that's what I'm going to do there. And since this comes off so easy, I'm also going to clean and wax in here, so which has never been done. At least I'll venture to say it's never been done. I haven't done it in 8 years, and I'll bet in 20 years that it's never been done. So I'm going to get back to work now. Maybe just try to pull this a bit more before I grind these rivets off, and grind that flat and get ready for fiberglass and primer and paint. Probably won't get to all of that today, but hopefully tomorrow I can get back out here and finish this up. In addition to the Volkswagen paint, which I showed you earlier, I also got this silver paint at Advance, which may be just as close a match. I mean, I know the caps are not don't show exactly what's in the can, but as you can see, those are really close there. And overall, it's not too far off. I mean, if the paint really does match the can, then there's a little more blue in this silver, and maybe a little more yellow in the silver I have on the van. But as I said, the original touch-up I had there was way far off. So if this is what it looks like on the cap, it's going to be much closer anyway. This is pretty much going to be where I call it quits for the day. I'll probably try to get back to it tomorrow afternoon. Pretty much most of the little holes I was able to weld up just fine. The bigger one here gave me some problems. And I've got another one right here. I may actually work another couple minutes with the welder. But it's pretty much as good as it's going to get. I mean, this dent was pretty far in, and like I said, it was when I bought the van, so it's popped out much closer to what it originally was now. So I'm going to maybe just work this a little more. It's getting late, and then I will clean up and get back to this tomorrow. Sunday, July 24, the bodywork continues. Where I left off yesterday, I had actually popped the dent out, and it's really close to the original contour of the van. So the practical upshot of this is, once I go over this one more time with Bondo, I'm going to be using a lot less of it this time, which is good because it is porous material, it does absorb water, and if you use too much and it gets exposed to the elements even a little bit, it fails over time. And I think I had a little bit of that happening, although for something that was on there 8 years, it actually held up pretty well. So you're seeing some holes here. Some of these were drill holes. I was able to weld up some of them. And some of this was caused by the dent pulling and attempting to weld up process. So my welding is getting better, but as you can see, there's still a couple of holes here that I really wasn't able to take care of, and it just seems that the more if I can't get it right away, the more I work at these, the worse some of them get. So I'm calling it quits on these particular holes. So right now I have this all cleaned up, and this whole section cleaned up and dried. Might go over it once more with maybe some isopropyl, really, just to get the last the dirt off it. But then I'm gonna tape this area off and spray this all down with a coating of Eastwood rust encapsulator, and I will be able to just barely be able to get to the back side of this through the vent hole here. So I'm going to do that to coat everything, and if it dries enough today, then what I'm going to do is apply a layer of fiberglass, actually, to cover up the holes. That way, a very thin layer of fiberglass. That way, once I get the Bondo over it, it'll be sealed out from the elements. And also, once that's all done, I'll be, once again, spraying the back side of this through the vent hole with, truck bed liner or something to really seal off all these repairs from the elements. And also, once the Eastwood's dry, I'm probably going to go along these seams here with a little bit of new seam sealer, because it looks like one of the reasons this is rusting out is because moisture can get to this seam from the inside. If you look down there, those are the pinholes along that seam. So it looks like, if you look right down here, you can see a little bit of a gap in the panels, and that does not seem to be watertight. So, rainwater gets in through the vent, works its way into that seam, and that's what causes that problem. So I'm also going to give this a liberal spraying of Eastwood from this side, and probably some, once that's dry, some bed liner. So that's what it is for now, and once again, I'll update you more at the next step of this process. Probably can't do too much more today. I have the area all cleaned up, and I masked it off, and I sprayed the exposed metal with Eastwood rust encapsulator. It actually surprised me that I didn't pick up any surface rust overnight. I figured it would be, more than figured there was more than enough moisture in the atmosphere to do that, but everything looked clean, but it didn't. So I cleaned everything up thoroughly and sprayed this as best I could from both sides. Actually, I see a little spot right here, which I'm just going to touch up quickly. I used pretty much everything I had left in the spray cans, so I'm going to have to order more of it, but I can continue on this with this section of the bodywork. This probably won't really dry quite well enough today for me to continue, so I am going to probably pack it up for today, and then tomorrow night when I get home from work I'll do a little section of fiberglass over the pinholes here. So that's where everything is for now. Now that it's all coated, you can really see how far I was able to pop out this dent here. I mean, obviously it still looks quite mangled, but you have to understand that this, when I bought the van, this whole dent was about 1 inch deep. So this is actually going to be a much nicer repair when I'm done with it. That's all for now. I actually did one more thing today. As you can see here, I did apply the fiberglass over the holes. Now I did this here, and right down there, and right there on the seam where I had those pinholes. The reason I did this is basically once this is dry, I can apply the Bondo over this, and then water won't be able to get to it from the back. You know, moisture, and therefore the Bondo should, in theory, hold up better over time. So this really is all I'm doing for today. So tomorrow I can get out here and sand this down a little bit, and then get to applying the Bondo. And once that's all ready, prime and paint this section, and then I move on. The rest of the bodywork really shouldn't take anywhere near as long. This really is the most extensive repair I have to do. Everything else is just kind of scraping off some surface rust, coating it, and then painting it. Saturday, July 30, 2011. I am back at work on the Vanagon today. I actually didn't get to do anything this past week. I know where I left off, I said I would get back to work Monday evening, but I had forgotten that Monday evening was actually my anniversary, so I obviously didn't work on the van. So I also didn't get a chance during the rest of the week, so I'm back to it today. As you can see, I've spread a layer of Bondo here, and I have to mix up some more. Basically, I came out here today. I had the fiberglass done, as I showed you last week. It was all nice and cured and hard. I ran over it with some sandpaper quickly to smooth it out just a little bit. Didn't have to be too good. And now I'm going to cover over the whole area with a very thin layer of Bondo. You can see right here, this ridge is where I had ground away the body filler from the previous kind of professional repair. So I'm going to get this all covered up, and then in about a half hour I'll be able to sand it all smooth, and then assuming there's no other touch-up to be done, I can hit it with some primer at that point. Of course, there probably will be a little more touch-up to completely smooth it out. You can see here these little ridges in the filler are caused by the slightly inferior spreader I have, that yellow thing right there. I had some better spreaders, but I couldn't find them, so I guess I'm going to keep looking for them. I'm pretty sure I have them around somewhere, but I figured just in the interest of getting going, I would use that one, and I'll keep going from there. I have now allowed the Bondo some time to cure, and I've gone over it first with my angle grinder with the kind of rubber brush attachment there, and then with the with my power sander there with the, I want to say, 80 grit disc, and it's actually smoothed out quite a bit. The metal you see is kind of the high area there in the metal, and the Bondo kind of fills in the gaps. I do need to go over this one more layer and smooth it out one more time, but other than that it's pretty much ready for primer. And as I said, it's a significantly better repair than I had last time. Then over here on this side, while I was working that, I actually ground the surface rust off of here with the wire brush attachment on the angle grinder. Threw some rust encapsulator on it, then primer, and now the silver paint, which looks to be a fairly close match to the original, although it doesn't seem to be too shiny. I am seeing a reference here to clear coat, so I don't know, I may throw some clear coat on this, I might not. We'll see what happens. And overall, it actually doesn't even look too bad, just as touch-up. And as I said, it seems fairly close to the original paint. Obviously not a perfect match, but really not too bad at all. So, and the reason I would possibly not use clear coat is that I've used clear coat on touch-up before, and pretty much every time I try that, the clear coat just seems to lead to accelerated failure on the repair. And of course the alternative is a repair that might last longer but not be quite as shiny, but I think that is probably the better way to go. So probably leave this as is, maybe toss one more layer on it, and then when it's all cured, I might just do a little bit of spot compounding and see what happens. So that's what it is for here. And then I'm going to continue on the other side. Well, I finished painting this area, and I did decide to throw some clear coat on it because I had some. It doesn't look bad. I started taking off the paper I'd used for masking, and started peeling the tape when I realized that when I got to the edge of the paint here that it peeled it up a little bit. So threw just a little touch-up on right there where I messed it up. It should be okay. You can see right there, sorry, at the tape line, the paint's original color and the noticeably brighter touch-up I've done here. So when this is all and when it's a little drier, I'll very carefully remove the rest of the tape. This is just kind of what you deal with when you do this kind of a repair. I mean, yeah, the touch-up there is not going to be a perfect match, and a lot of people would not be happy with that. I personally am going to be very happy because I know this is going to last me at least a few years, because it was 8 years ago that I first made this repair. And certainly a slight mismatch in silver, which I had before anyway from the previous touch-up, so don't forget that. But a slight mismatch in silver is far better than seam rust. So, kind of have to pick your battles. I mean, I could get this professionally done, but it would cost so much more, and eventually it would fail again. I mean, even if I took it to a shop and it came out looking more or less perfect for the time being, it would probably last about the same amount of time, and before it would have to be redone. So this is the route I choose to go. I'm going to be very happy with this, and especially, with the bumper corner on here and the bumper back on the van, a good portion of this is going to be masked anyway. So you're going to see it right here, which, I mean, I'm more than happy to live with. So that's what it is for now. And over here, as I said, I applied just a little extra Bondo up here to so I can smooth things out just a little further. Still need a few more minutes for that to dry. Then I'll hit it with the power sander there, and once that's done, I'll go with some much finer sandpaper by hand, and maybe even go down to wet sand it before I prime it. So, and then I'll prime it. Primer shouldn't take long to dry, and then I'm going to try this touch-up paint right here, which I got at a Volkswagen show a few years ago, which is Flash Silver Metallic, the van's original color. So let's see how close this is to the original color. Of course, I did read the instructions, and I may have to clear coat this also. I was really hoping that it was a one-stage paint, but I never read the instructions on it. So, and hopefully I have enough here between these two very small cans to cover this area. If not, I'll just have to use the the silver paint I bought at AutoZone, or was it Advance? I think I got it at Advance. But like I said, I hope that covers this big area here. If not, I'll just have the same mismatch I had on the other side. No big deal. More than happy to live with that situation. So that's where I am for now. I'm going to get back to work. Final video for the day. I should be done with this tomorrow. You can see it's actually not as smooth now. Kind of hard to see that because the primer's on and there's some runs. Basically, I'm kind of in a rush to get out for the evening, so once I had the Bondo all sanded and really smooth, I had a couple of spots that I had to hit with some glazing putty, so I did that, and glazing putty was pretty much dry, but like I said, I don't have time to do anything else with that for the evening, such as smooth out the glazing putty and then reprime it. So what I did was, just to protect the exposed metal, I shot a quick layer of primer over everything, and tomorrow we're going to get back out here, get this all smooth again, reprime it, and shoot the paint. And I actually have the tape over here off on the other side so I can show you this completed repair. Like I said, the paint is obviously not quite a complete match, and you can see the tape lines and everything, but however, like I said, I think this looks way better than rust over here. So this is complete for now, so I'm gonna put away all my tools and then get inside and then get ready for my evening out, and then I'll get back to this tomorrow. Sunday, July 31, back to work now. Overnight I had the glazing putty sitting with actually a layer of primer over it to protect everything. I came out here today, and now I have sanded it all smooth again. You can see the different layers of stuff there. You can see some of the glazing putty, some of the Bondo, some of the metal, and this pretty much is, I mean, I could work this for quite a while longer, getting it even smoother, but really just don't have the time for that. And even now it's much better than it was, and when there's paint over it, this is going to look way better than it did before. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to expose, once again, a little bit of this rust here. So I'm going to just spray a little bit of Eastwood, the rust encapsulator, on that first, and then maybe on some of this exposed metal just a little bit. That'll dry in a few minutes, and then I'll prime and paint, and then I'm going to move on to other rust spots in the van. Well, I have this in paint and clear coat now. Obviously it's not nearly as nice a job as I thought I would have. You can see right here, I can explain this. See those the big kind of what look like drip marks there? What happened was when I sprayed the paint over the primer, had a little bit of fisheye going on. I wasn't sure why, so I figured maybe I would just take a heat gun to that quickly, and it kind of made it worse, and then kind of messed up one of the bubbles there, trying to pop it and get it to resettle. So I ended up spraying a little bit of the duplicolor paint that I was using on the other side, because I was out of the Volkswagen paint, which otherwise really does look like a match to the original. Unfortunately, now I'm completely out of it, but overall it still is a better repair than I had last time. Paint looks a little streaky. Hopefully when the clear coat is fully dry it won't be so bad. Once again, I can always repaint the section. That's not too big a deal. And then after I did that, I went around the bottom of the van and got all the little surface spots there with my grinder. And this one right here by the door, which actually wasn't as bad as I had feared it might be. So did that on the other side of the van too, on the bottom, and also got all the spots here along the bumper and cleaned that up. I'm kind of waiting for that to dry now. So once that's a little more dry, I'll apply rust encapsulator to everything. And once the rust encapsulator is dry, I can just use I can touch up paint, whatever, on the spots here on the bottom. I'll have to be a little more careful there on the front. I probably won't finish it today, but I'll get the bulk of it done before my vacation. So that's where this is for now. Okay, I just wanted to show you this here. It actually turned out a lot better than I thought it would. You can see the paint is damn near a perfect match. The corner is looks better than it ever has since I've owned the van. I mean, especially from this angle right here, I mean, you almost can't even see the damage anymore. I mean, it really is pretty incredible. Too bad I ran out of that factory touch-up paint, because that stuff was an incredible match. But as I said, that's just something I came across at a car show years ago and just kind of shelved, knowing it was a perfect match. But I only it was one full can and one basically partially used half can, so I had a very small amount of it to work with. Barely had enough here, and obviously I had to cover up that one spot there with the stuff that doesn't quite match, so that doesn't look great right there. But overall, this is a I would say it's a pretty fantastic repair. I mean, standing back here, you can it's kind of even hard to see where the tape line was. It's that close a match. So overall, I'm very happy with this. Wish I didn't have that splotch right there in the middle, but there's really nothing I can do about it at the moment. If I ever have to do this again, obviously it'll be in a non-matching paint. But figured while I had this stuff, I may as well use it, because I mean, as it was, those two little cans of paint were so old, I wasn't even sure they would work anymore. So very happy with this, and now I'm going to get on to treating these spots here at the bottom.